Rebecca Lobo. Rebecca Lobo this past Sunday, Indiana Fever versus Dallas Wings on ESPN. When it comes to announcers speaking out, this might have been the most outspoken announcers have been when it comes to the egregious officiating, but more importantly, the non-calls. When Caitlin Clark is getting grabbed, getting held, getting yanked, getting hugged, getting hacked. Rebecca Lobo said, okay, Sunday, July 13th, I'm going to make sure it's my mission that when I start calling this game, I start calling a spade and holding these referees to the fire.
Did a live television broadcast accidentally become the scene of a crime, exposing a league-wide conspiracy that has been hiding in plain sight? Because what unfolded during a routine WNBA game wasn't just commentary. It was a bombshell revelation delivered by Ruocco and Rebecca Lobo. They didn't just comment on Caitlin Clark getting mauled on the court. They peeled back the curtain on a disturbing pattern of officiating that feels less like incompetence and more like a deliberate, top-down mandate. What they said, and how they said it, has turned a simple basketball game into a firestorm, suggesting that the league's biggest star is being systematically targeted while the referees are ordered to look the other way. The truth they unveiled was far more shocking than any single missed call.
Finally, they're saying the quiet part out loud. It's a little bit hard to see. She's literally grabbing her arm. It's insane, and none of that was called. Finally, at the end of the one play, they called the foul because it was like indisputable. I mean, she got whacked on the arm and then gets hit to the ground. But they weren't going to call any of the other fouls leading up to it. I mean, this is what Caitlin Clark...
What makes this revelation so explosive is how quietly it began. If you weren't listening with a critical ear, if you were just casually watching the game, you might have missed the entire thing. It wasn't a loud, angry tirade or a dramatic walk-off. Instead, it was a subtle shift in tone, a carefully chosen word, an almost imperceptible hesitation in the commentary that spoke volumes. This wasn't about what was shouted, but what was finally painstakingly articulated in the quiet moments between plays. It was the kind of truth bomb that doesn't detonate with a bang, but with a slow, creeping realization that the people paid to be neutral observers could no longer stomach the charade they were being forced to narrate, and that fleeting moment of honesty changed everything.
Yo, straight calling them out, man. Straight calling them out. And I expected it, you know, because they are straightforward and they speak highly of Caitlin. So when they see the nonsense, man, of course they're going to say something. And I believe most of the commentators should be like that, man. Just keep it real, fam. Keep it real. Call it how you see it. And, you know, whether the WNBA likes it or not, the commissioner likes it or not, Kathy likes it or not, speak your mind, man. That's what people want. They want the truth. So, man, shout out to Ruocco, man. Shout out to... Shout out to Ruocco. Shout out to Rebecca Lobo calling it like...
So, prepare yourself, because what started as a sports broadcast rapidly spiraled into something resembling a courtroom drama, and the league itself is now in the hot seat. We're about to dissect the evidence piece by piece, analyzing the footage, the data, and the damning commentary that suggests this isn't just about a few bad calls. This is a deep-seated issue that threatens the very integrity of the game. The receipts are all here, captured in high definition, and they paint a picture so damning that someone, whether it's an official or a league executive, might find themselves permanently benched. This is the story of how the truth finally broke through the noise.
The new man, Ryan Ruocco, Mr. You Bet himself, and Rebecca Lobo ended up bringing up how players have been getting away with fouling Caitlin Clark live on television. Right here, they're talking about this right here, where JJ was holding the arm, okay? Then they're talking about this moment right here too, right? She's reaching through the body, reaching both sides, both arms through the body right here. So they're talking about this one. They're talking about right here on the swat down. It looked like she hit her hand just a tad bit.
The paradox at the heart of this entire controversy is that While this issue of brutal, uncalled fouls supposedly affects everyone, it seems to orbit exclusively around Caitlin Clark with the gravitational pull of a black hole. It has become a ritual, a predictable act in the three-act play of every single game she plays. It's as certain as death and taxes. The ball is in her hands. She makes a move, and suddenly she's being treated like a tackling dummy in an NFL practice, all while the officials seem to have entered a meditative state. The situation has become so bizarre that it's sparking genuine confusion among viewers who are now flooding search engines with questions like, is tackling legal in the WNBA now, or did the WNBA secretly merge with UFC, as if they've missed a critical update from the league's headquarters that redefines what a foul actually is.
It's crazy how Caitlin Clark does not get her foul clause pointed out when they are actually fouling her left and right, all the way from half court all the way down to the basketball hoop. I don't understand how the referees are standing there and they not call the fouls. Her coaches have complained. Even Caitlin Clark gets on the referees of not calling the fouls when she knows there's fouls.
To be perfectly clear, this goes far beyond the typical physicality of professional basketball. Other athletes certainly endure hard fouls. However, the nature of the contact Caitlin Clark absorbs possesses an entirely different, almost performative quality. It's not just a foul. It often borders on a flagrant assault executed with a level of aggression that seems intended to send a message. You can see it in the way opponents lunge, the extra shove after the play, the hip checks far away from the ball. The most baffling part is the collective, visible reaction. Players on both teams flinch, the crowd lets out a unified gasp, the announcers are momentarily stunned into silence, and yet the three individuals tasked with enforcing the rules continue their performance of serene indifference, as if they are the only people in a 15,000-seat arena who saw nothing. The sheer audacity of the non-calls is staggering, as Caitlin is frequently manhandled from one end of the court to the other like she is a target in a full-contact game of tag. She is dragged, held, and bumped from the moment she inbounds the ball to the moment she releases a shot, yet the officials appear to be tuned into a completely different reality. One has to wonder if they re-officiating a game of water polo, where underwater grappling is part of the strategy, or perhaps a chaotic game of dodgeball. Whatever sport they believe they are watching, it bears little resemblance to the game of basketball being played out in front of them, a game whose rulebook clearly defines the very actions they are so consistently ignoring.
You think the old guard, you think the old 46,000 fans had enough of a voice? No, they don't got no voice. The new fans need to speak up. The announcers who aren't scared need to speak up. I'm sure a lot of those old announcers are scared. I'm sure they're scared. But the announcers like Rebecca Lobo, Orion Ruocco, they need to step up and say, oh, the officiating that's going on here isn't okay. You guys watch this. Quinterly grabbed Caitlin Clark's arm. Like, Caitlin, where you going? Get over here. Oh, that's interesting. Why play defense when we can just grab somebody's arm, right? Interesting. Quinterly putting her hands around Caitlin Clark's waist. Valentine's Day was a few months ago. Sorry.
What elevates this from mere incompetence to something far more suspicious is that the abuse isn't confined to the high-traffic areas near the basket. If she were only getting hit hard in the paint while driving to the hoop, one might chalk it up to aggressive, albeit poorly officiated, defense. That would be logical, even expected. But this is something else entirely. She's not just getting beat up in the final stretch toward the rim, she's getting mugged the second she crosses half-court, sometimes even in the backcourt. Her journey up the floor has become a 94-foot gauntlet, an exhausting obstacle course where the primary challenge isn't the defender in front of her, but an officiating philosophy that seems to have suspended the laws of physics exclusively for her. The most maddening element for fans, players, and even the commentators is the complete and utter lack of consistency, which makes the entire viewing experience feel like a surreal guessing game. On any given night, a simple hand check on another player might be whistled as a heinous crime against basketball, resulting in free throws and a stern warning. Yet, on the very next possession, Caitlin can absorb a full-body forearm shiver to her ribs that sends her stumbling, and it's dismissed as good, tough defense. One game, a light tap on the wrist during a layup is reviewed for flagrant 2, while the next, she can be leveled by a clothesline straight out of a WWE highlight reel, and the nearest ref will suddenly become fascinated with a scuff mark on the floor, avoiding eye contact with everyone. It's not just confusing, it's a chaotic, unscripted performance that makes it impossible for anyone to understand where the line is.
It's a foul as she gets body checked. That's a foul. That's a foul. I mean, it's not only until right now when she's finally whacked on the arm. I'm so happy that the broadcast team finally caught it out directly. And it's so insane. And I talked about this in my video where I broke down the whole game. I mean, Enrique clearly fouls her, whacks her. Caitlin Clark gets fouled. I mean, just even right now, I actually kind of paused it perfectly, not even on purpose. You can see both hands on her body up against her chest. You can't play defense like that. I don't care what random person in the comment section tries to convince you otherwise. That's not defense.
This is where the entire experience becomes a form of live, televised gaslighting, especially for the millions of new fans the league is trying to attract. Imagine sitting a friend down, trying to convert them into a WNBA fan. You build up the moment, you talk about Caitlin Clark's unprecedented skill, her vision, her historic impact on the sport. Then, the game starts, and they watch her get steamrolled by a defender before she can even set up the offense, with absolutely no whistle, no stoppage, just silence. Meanwhile, you can hear the raw frustration cracking through the professional veneer of the announcers. Their voices climb in pitch, their disbelief palpable as they try to describe the mayhem without explicitly calling the officiating a sham. It was within this theater of the absurd that Ruocco and Rebecca Lobo finally broke character, providing a moment of catharsis that was long overdue. They witnessed Caitlin get treated like a human pinball for the umpteenth time and, through their commentary, essentially turned to the audience and said, "You're not crazy. We see it too." Their shared disbelief was a validation for every fan who had been screaming at their screen for months. Let us be brutally honest. This isn't a recent development or a string of bad luck. This has been a festering problem for an extended period, a multi-season saga of questionable officiating that has now reached a boiling point under the national spotlight. For longtime fans of the league who have watched other stars endure similar treatment, it is a frustrating case of déjà vu, just with a different player and higher stakes. The only thing that has changed is the scale of the audience. Now, the inconsistencies and blatant non-calls are being broadcast on major networks in crystal clear HD for millions of new viewers to witness firsthand. And you can be certain that the WNBA front office is acutely aware. They see the same footage we do, and the silence from them is becoming deafening.
Caitlin Clark does not have a special whistle in the WNBA, unlike some other players. Asia Wilson. Every time you touch Asia Wilson, she's going through the free throw line. And the announcers definitely will say she's one player that gets a lot of fouls called on her, and she goes to that free throw line. Breanna Stewart, she gets a lot of foul call. You touch her, she gets...
They cannot feign ignorance. The league office is armed with more data, analytics, and high-definition camera angles than a Hollywood blockbuster production. They can break down every single possession from every conceivable perspective, revealing the undeniable contact that goes uncalled time and time again. This isn't some ancient, unsolvable riddle. It's a fundamental issue of officiating that is entirely fixable. The solution is straightforward. Standardize the definition of a foul across the board, provide rigorous and continuous training for referees, and, most importantly, hold them accountable for their performance. It's a revolutionary concept, I know. Simply call the obvious fouls. At a time when the league is desperately chasing unprecedented growth, visibility, and respect, none of their buzzwords about parity or marketability will matter if the on-court product feels fundamentally broken and unfair. You have the league's most electrifying player, Caitlin Clark, battling her way through double and triple teams, a whirlwind of flailing arms and squeaking sneakers, only to be decked mid-stride by a defender. The referee, standing just a few feet away with a perfect view, does nothing. They just blink, as if their brain is trying to process whether physical contact is a real phenomenon. The broadcast then cuts to a slow-motion replay, showing the shove, the hip check, the blatant grab, confirming what everyone in the arena and at home just witnessed. Still, no whistle. It's not about demanding she receive special treatment or be wrapped in bubble wrap. It's about asking for a baseline level of professional competence. The rules of the game should apply to everyone, equally and consistently. Is that truly an insurmountable request? Right now, it feels like we're watching a star player navigate a haunted house, where defenders jump out at her from every corner while the officials insist they saw nothing.
So guys, today we got to talk about something, and Paige Beckers in an interview literally exposed just how bad the referee's problem is. Like, she just exposed how bad it was in a pre-game interview for the game. I couldn't find the audio part of it, but Ryan Ruocco literally said she had to forget. So basically, she had to relearn how to play defense while fouling. So, you know, everything you learn about defense, how to play while not fouling, how to move your feet, how to do all this, she had to throw out all the good defensive fundamentals that she'd learned. And now she had to learn to go foul.
This issue has transcended simple arguments about favoritism and has now become a direct threat to the league's credibility. You cannot successfully market your sport as a premier, professional competition on one hand, while simultaneously allowing its biggest draw to be treated like a human bumper car on the other. It sends a deeply conflicting message. The league needs to pick a lane. Either it's a serious sport with rules and integrity, or it's chaotic entertainment where the rules are optional. The fact that the television announcers, who are paid partners of the league, have been forced to become the voices of reason is the most damning indictment of all. When the commentators are the ones breaking the unspoken code to point out the absurdity, it means the silence from the officiating crews and the league office has become inexcusably loud. Ruocco and Rebecca Lobo were under no obligation to deviate from the standard, sanitized script of sports commentary. They could have easily described the plays with detached professionalism, ignoring the blatant officiating failures unfolding before them. But they didn't. They chose to speak up because the situation had become so transparently ridiculous that to ignore it would have been a disservice to the audience and the sport itself. We are all watching the exact same game, yet the only individuals who seem incapable of seeing the flagrant fouls are the ones paid to carry the whistles. This has created a bizarre sub-game for fans, who now watch on edge, not just for the score, but to see what new form of uncalled physicality will be inflicted upon Caitlin next. The plea from the public is simple: we want fairness, not handouts. We want accountability, not diva treatment. We just want a foul to be a foul, regardless of who commits it or who it's committed against.
I don't think her importance is overstated. I think she's a singular force like we've never seen before in the women's game, in particular in the women's college game. And we've had great players. We just haven't had this mix of a player who does something we've never seen before in the women's college game in terms of the logo threes. Every time the stakes raise and it feels like, oh, geez, there's got to be a lot of pressure on this kid, a lot of pressure, she meets the...
So, this is where we find ourselves game after game. We watch Caitlin Clark spend more time picking herself up off the hardwood than she does setting up for a shot, while the referees observe the contact with the detached curiosity of an art critic at an interpretive dance performance. But the dynamic has shifted. The announcers are now openly questioning the officiating on live broadcasts. The fan base is unified and furious. The video evidence is overwhelming and easily accessible. The WNBA is at a critical juncture and faces a clear choice: address this officiating crisis head-on with transparency and action, or continue to pretend everything is fine while its most marketable asset in a generation is systematically dismantled, night after night. Because while the league might claim this is a league-wide issue of increased physicality, one undeniable fact remains crystal clear to anyone watching. It may not only be about Caitlin, but when it comes to this level of sustained, uncalled aggression, it somehow inexplicably is always about Caitlin.
This is the last thing I'm going to say about the Caitlin Clark WNBA drama, at least for this very moment, because the discourse has gotten absolutely insane. But there has been a lot of media and current athletes coming out and saying that the treatment that players like Caitlin Clark, like Angel Reese, like other rookies are receiving is just how basketball is. It's happened to many WNBA players in the past, and this is just the way it is. And new fans coming to the game just need to deal with it. However, this is the way that the game has been, and the WNBA has never been as successful as it is.
We've now ventured beyond the realm of simple human error and into territory that feels disturbingly intentional, almost as if it were orchestrated in a corporate boardroom. After observing this pattern for weeks, it's becoming nearly impossible to dismiss the growing theory that has taken hold among fans and analysts alike, that the WNBA has tacitly or perhaps even directly instructed its officials to swallow their whistles when it comes to Caitlin Clark. After nearly 24 games of watching her endure basketball mayhem with a shocking lack of foul calls, the idea that someone in a position of power sent out a memo titled, "Let them play," her doesn't feel like a wild conspiracy anymore. It feels like the only logical explanation. And the most compelling evidence isn't coming from anonymous social media accounts, but from the most credible voices in the broadcast booth. Just listen to Ryan Ruocco, a consummate professional who always strives for a smooth, balanced broadcast. Even he can no longer conceal his astonishment. You can hear the strain in his voice every time Caitlin is clobbered on a drive to the basket and the game simply continues. There is an audible pause, a moment of pure disbelief as his brain seems to short-circuit, before he manages a strained wow. No call there. That wow is broadcaster code for, I am witnessing absolute insanity and am contractually obligated to not scream about it. He's watching a player get treated like a folded deck chair, and all he can do is narrate the absurdity with a tone of polite, restrained horror. This isn't just commentary, it's a man trying to maintain his professional composure while watching a farce unfold. It has reached a point of such undeniable absurdity that Rebecca Lobo, a titan of the sport known for her measured analysis and unflappable demeanor, has begun to systematically dismantle the officiating on live television. She isn't doing it with outrage or hyperbole. Instead, she employs the devastatingly effective tone of a calm, disappointed teacher who has caught the entire class cheating on a test. She isn't yelling or ranting, she is meticulously pointing out every missed shove, every illegal screen, every hip check, circling the problem with a verbal red marker and calmly stating, "This is not a foul you can miss." And in the world of basketball commentary, when a voice as respected and composed as Rebecca Lobo declares that something is fundamentally not okay, you can be certain that it is, in fact, not okay.
Ryan and Rebecca go and extend a rip at the foul. She was absolutely unbelievable criticism. For Paige to say she had to relearn how to defend to be less careful about fouling. That's not basketball. Like, people literally say, oh, it's physical basketball. No, you're just going around hacking people. You're just going around hacking people. That's not foul. That's not defense. Going around hacking people. Genuinely. Going around hacking people is not defense. That's not defense. It's not.
Let's be perfectly clear about what's happening on the court, because it's not just a matter of whistles being blown late or calls being inconsistent. The silence from the referees feels targeted and deliberate, specifically when Caitlin Clark is the one being fouled. A defender can literally throw a shoulder, an elbow, and a knee into her on a single drive to the basket, and the officials will gaze into the rafters as if contemplating the profound mysteries of the universe. And the most critical development is that this pattern is no longer just being noticed by fans. It's being called out by the most objective, respected voices in the sport. Rebecca and Ryan are paid to call the game, not to fuel conspiracy theories, but the evidence has become so relentlessly obvious that even they can no longer pretend this is just business as usual. And make no mistake, the jury in this case is the entire global television audience. Millions of fans, both new and old, have been watching this unfold game after game, and their verdict is coming in loud and clear. They have seen more than enough to know that what is happening is not normal, not fair, and not sustainable for a league that claims to be at the pinnacle of the sport. We cannot understate the significance of what Rebecca Lobo and Ryan Ruocco are doing. A professional sports league that meticulously manages its image, and in a media landscape where broadcast partners are often hesitant to criticize the product, they are delivering raw, unvarnished truth. They are articulating the very frustrations that fans have been screaming about for months, but they are doing so with professionalism, precision, and just enough pointed commentary to ensure the message lands with a sting. While the league continues to push a narrative that ignoring these fouls is just letting them play, Rebecca Lobo is on air with her metaphorical red pen, circling every instance of nonsense for the world to see. If league executives think they are fooling anyone, they need to listen to their own broadcasts. They have become the only duo in sports media who are calling these games as if they aren't guarding a massive, inconvenient secret. They are the only voices with a national platform consistently saying what everyone else is thinking. This is not right. All the while, the game on the court descends further into chaos. The WNBA should be sending them gift baskets, because without their honest, credible validation of the fans' frustrations, the anger and disbelief would have boiled over into a full-blown crisis weeks ago. In a league where you can no longer trust the officiating to be fair, at least you can trust Lobo and Ruocco to tell you the truth. So, what are your thoughts on this officiating controversy? Do you believe it's incompetence or something more deliberate? Let us know your take in the comments below. And if you appreciate us breaking down the stories nobody else will, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you never miss an update.